Hello, good evening everyone, and welcome back to the BTS Boot Room. We're going to be reacting to both of tonight's games in the Premier Division. We've just seen Dundalk suffer another defeat, this time a 1-0 home defeat against Bohemians, and earlier on St. Pat's were easy winners against Derry City. Derry reduced to 10 men early on in that game against Pats, and Pats went on to win 2-0 to go top of the league. So I'm going to be speaking to fans and guests from all four teams in action tonight, but as I said, we'll start off with that game at Oriel Park, and I'm delighted to be joined by Dundalk fan Alan Matthews and former Bohemians player Paddy Kavanagh. Both join me now in the BTS Boot Room. So as ever, we'll go to the winning team first. Paddy, obviously a former Bohs man, wasn't the prettiest of games, but Bohs, they finally get the first W of the season.
Yeah, big W for the lads. This disciplined performance, I thought, and I think they're full value for it, to be honest.
Georgie Kelly coming back to haunt his former side. It was a terrible defensive mistake from Dundalk, wasn't it?
Oh, reckless, poor pass, and then we put Cleary in a bad position. But to be fair, Tierney was there to capitalise on it, wasn't it? And he got halved. Could have even been a red, I thought.
Alan, I'll go to you on that one. Dundalk have had most of the ball in that game. They probably haven't created a huge amount of clear-cut chances. I know there was one brilliant save from Talbot in the second half. I think it was a header from Stanton, but they've really put that result on a plate for Bohs. That mistake was just absolutely unforgivable.
Yeah, criminal. It was like when you see it back, even the tackle, he was off the ground. I can't believe he didn't get a yellow card. I thought, like any other day, if he had got a red, I would have understood totally. But just when he got the second yellow card, or the yellow card in the second half, I thought he was off. I just couldn't believe he didn't get a yellow card for the penalty. Like I say, Georgie Kelly come back. It was a shame he left us. He played really well, held up the line, and constant threat for Bohs. I don't remember him having too many chances, but he made a lot of the play up there for Bohs.
Yeah, and look, I know you listen to the podcast most weeks, Alan. It's something we've discussed before. Again, it's one of them kind of transfer decisions that have been made in recent times at Dundalk. It just doesn't really make a huge amount of sense. I know that Georgie Kelly had a difficult time last year with Pats, and we'll be hearing from Craig Walsh a little bit later on St. Pat's, but had a difficult time at Pats, as I said, but he's gone into the Bohs team. Look, Bohs have had a slow start to the season, but he's a young player clearly with lots of potential, and you think Dundalk would have kept him on the books in some shape or form, even if it did mean sending him out for a couple of loan spells. They're probably regretting that decision this evening.
Possibly. Like the only trouble was he was always behind Patrick Hoban, who we all know gets goals. He's to this season in a bad team. Well, we're not a bad team, but we're just not playing well. So Georgie was always going to have to wait. Like, it's bad enough that David McMillan doesn't even get minutes at the moment. Like, he got a few minutes there at the end today, but he doesn't get enough. So unfortunately, like, we have good players. You saw with Seanie Maguire a few years ago, couldn't get on for us, and then went and played a stormer for Cork City and got his move across the water. So it's just a shame that happens. Hindsight's always a great thing, but personally, I would have loved to see him stay.
And look, we haven't seen a huge amount from Pat Hoban so far this season, but is that down to a lack of service, or you seem to be a big fan of McMillan? Do you think McMillan deserves more game time?
He does. Like, I understand he's a bit older than Pat, but I think he does lead the line well. He chases down every ball. For someone of his age, he just has an awful lot of energy. You saw in the cup final, he got a hat-trick, and he had a poor cup final until he started getting the goals, but he still doesn't give up. Pat will always get in the positions. He is good for a couple of chances. He had one or two chances. He had one in the first half. It just very weak shot. He did well in the first half. Had set up Djurkovskis in the first 10 minutes. Like, we had 3 chances before their goal. So we started well, but we'd no end product.
Yeah, I thought that myself. Started the game really well, had Bohs on the back foot, but once Dundalk made that mistake, they just never really recovered.
No, everything with Dundalk this season has been rushed. There's a difference between playing on the break, like good teams do, that we used to do, because we had speed in the team. But this isn't playing on the break. It's just rushing everything. You see Daniel Cleary coming out of the defence so many times. Like, at the moment, okay, tonight we played 4 at the back, but we never had 4 at the back. It was always Shields dropping in between Boyle and Cleary to get the ball. Cleary was up the pitch a lot of the time. Near the end, we had a mistake where Boyle messed up and then Leahy messed up and Bohs nearly got in. We got away with it a few times. So we play on the edge, and it's not a good. We've no system. We make
No
too many
discipline.
subs. There's no discipline at all. Fair, like that. It's rushed. It's forced. Tiernan Mulvena was great. Listen to him tonight. He had it down to a T. He knew exactly
He spoke really
what was
well,
wrong with us. He's great to listen to him. But like that, there very little positives coming out tonight.
Paddy, as I said, look, it wasn't a vintage Bohemians display by any shape or form, but to go to Oria and get the win, it's a ground they've struggled at in recent years, and their next game is away to Waterford. I know Waterford obviously picked up their first win of the season last week, and they're in action again this weekend away to Harp, so we'll wait and see how they get on there. But this might be just the starting point now for Bohemians this season.
I think both tonight, like, they were disciplined. They let Dundalk have it and let them sit in front of them at times, and it was grand because it forced Dundalk into them errors. But I thought when Bohs had the ball and they passed it with a purpose, as opposed to not just lumping it. There's a bit of a lumpiness to their play last week against Pats, and this week I thought they played a bit more purpose and tried to feed Georgie, and Georgie held it up and brought Tierney and brought Coote and Burt into the game a hell of a lot more than previous couple of weeks, you know.
Yeah, and one player you mentioned there, I thought he had a very good game, Ali Coote. It's interesting to see Bashan Heary on the bench again tonight. He's not really caught fire at all. He was obviously one of the big name signings in the off season, but it looks like Keith Long has probably got his best starting 11 nailed down now with the likes of Coote and Burt in the midfield. I thought Burt had a very good game as well.
Yeah, I thought I read one or two. It was a Keith's programme notes the week before that there might be a slight fitness issue there, that they're trying to get him up to speed. He's played a lot of games across the last year and a bit, I think, with up north and that. So just trying to get him right again coming into the League of Ireland season. So no, I don't look here. He's a quality player, and I think he has a big role to play for Bohemians this season.
And as I said, look, hopefully this is a starting block for Bohs, because it was a disappointing start from them, but they've got the win tonight, and up against Waterford next. They'll be fancy to win there. What's the goal for Bohs this season? Everyone at the start of the year would have said they're good enough to push Rovers. Do you still maintain that?
I think, look, Keith and Trevor have the job of trying to gel a squad together again and go and challenge, and ultimately that has to be the goal, to, I think, secure Europe once again, decent cup run, and try and push Rovers. I watched Rovers Dundalk last week as well, and thought they were very good, to be fair to them.
Alan, what about Dundalk? 4 games in, only 1 point on the board, and maybe fortunate to get that point against Sligo, it has to be said. I think this is Dundalk's worst league start in 15 years or so. It's not looking good at the moment.
No, I think I see James Rogers saying something along the lines that it's worst start since 1895 or something like that. I don't know. It's hard to remember the club being running so badly since maybe our first division season at times. You know, like that's 12 years ago. But I don't know where we go. We are just, there's so much going on behind the scenes that just seems to be bad. For many years under Kenny, we were signing the top players in the league, and cherry picking and in the positions we need. I think we're just trying to sign a lot of players as opposed to signing what we actually need. Like, it's been clear to see for years that we never replaced the likes of Stephen O'Donnell, Robbie Benson, Jimmy McGrath. Our midfield is gone. What we've brought in,
there's a huge over reliance on Chris Shields in the middle. He's trying to do the work of 3 men at times.
Absolutely.
It's one thing having Shields in there to hold, but that creative spark that you're relying on. Well, McElhenney came on tonight, to be fair, but you've nobody playing in that 10 position that can bounce off Hoban and feed in Michael Duffy, or that little spark. It's missing. It's not there.
Yeah, we have a comment in there from a Bohs fan, finger twitching is his username, but he said, thought Ward was excellent every time he plays, intelligent, 4 passes, nailed on starter for me. That's the sort of player Dundalk we're missing tonight. I'm not saying they should go out and sign Keith Ward. They had him many moons ago, but when he's on song, he is one of the best number 10s to watch in this league. But Dundalk were missing that kind of real creative spark in the final third, weren't they, Paddy?
Yeah, you're nailed on there from finger twitching. Wardy, intelligent forward passes. Wardy'd watch a defender, and he'd watch his step, and he'd know when to play a pass and catch a defender wrong-footed and that. He's such a bright player, and he's clued in the whole time. And that is exactly what Dundalk were missing tonight. That little spark in the 10 that can create something, and it's just not there for Dundalk at the moment.
Yeah, we've got another comment in from a Bohs fan as well, complimenting the performance of Ross Tierney. Obviously, I seen Bohs in action a couple of weeks ago against Longford, and Tierney was a real handful in the first half. I thought he was a really good foil off the big man Georgie Kelly. But what have you made of his start to the season, Paddy? He's a lot more prominent than we've seen previously.
Yeah, he's after. It's nearly as if he's after growing and he's become a man in the team type thing. Duracell, Bunny, the energy that the young fella has, like, he's exceptional. But he's that willingness to run past Georgie, run channels, and it stretches midfield. It stretches that man in the 6 and doesn't give the number 6 a break at all. So now hopefully he kicks on, has a big season this year, you know.
Do you think Bohs will be okay this season for goals? Because obviously they lost Andre Wright, they lost the experience of Denny Cork. I know he didn't play a lot last year. Lost Danny Mandreu as well, who was a goal scorer midfielder. And obviously lost Danny Grant as well, who chipped in with plenty. But from what you've seen so far, will there be enough goals in that Bohs team for them to compete at the very top level this year?
I think there is goals. I think Ali Coote will start to chip in, and I think Kieran Burke will get going as well. Obviously, the focal point has to be Georgie and has to stay fit. So, I think it's key to George at the moment as an out-and-out centre forward, the target point.
Bohs Kaiser, a very well-known Bohs fan on social media, he said we'd love to give Davy McMillan a good home, and I'm sure plenty of teams would. It's a great option there that Dundalk have with the two strikers. So it's amazing to see them really struggling for goals this season, Alan.
I can't believe they're not playing them.
Yeah, what's your thoughts there, Paddy? Is there a way that Dundalk could incorporate both Hoban and McMillan? Because it seems a great waste to have a player like that just sitting around.
Surely look at a 4-4-2, maybe. Get the two boys in the team. Like, McMillan has the ability to turn a bad ball into a good ball. Like, he'll run the channels and he makes things happen. And if Hoban is the target, well, then McMillan will run past him. At the moment, there's nobody running past Hoban, and they've no other ideas.
Alan, what next for Dundalk?
Who knows? I see a lot of fans will be calling for a change in management, but I don't know. Like, we don't know. The problem is we don't know who our manager is. We don't have a system. We don't know who our best 11 is. We've too big of a squad. We've just, like, I'm looking back over the last 4 games of this league. The first game, tonight's team, only 8 started there last week. Before that, there was 5 changes from the first night. It's a lot of changes in 4 weeks, in 3 weeks, you know. Too many chops and changes, and then even with that, half-time subs. Like, no other team changes 2 or 3 players at half-time, or like, it's awful panics. And it's taken, like, even we saw last week when Sloggett came off, he came on for defender, came off for defender. Same again tonight, Lee coming on instead of Mistogan, who was having a fairly good game. He was very positive for us. Really seems like a decent sign and held up the ball well, got into a couple of positions, got other people into the game. Some of the decisions are just crackers.
Yeah, because even I said it on the pod this week, I was really surprised to see Ryan O'Kane come off last week at halftime. I know he didn't have a huge impact on the game, but a young player like that, I think it was a bit harsh to whip him off at halftime. And look, you made the good point. It sounds mad to say it. We don't really know who the manager is. I know the general consensus is Filippo is the manager, Shane Keegan is the man been put up in front of the media. But at the same time, look, James Rogers wrote about this during the week. The club probably haven't helped themselves with this situation. Fans want answers, and Shane Keegan has constantly been put out in front of the media. I think fans would like to hear from Filippo and hear his views on things. And you've kind of alluded to some off-field issues as well that James wrote about as well in his latest column for BetweenTheStripes.net. There's just an awful lot going on at Dundalk, and as he said on our show a couple of weeks ago, even though these things shouldn't really have a direct impact on performances on the pitch, they do seep their way into things.
Oh, they definitely do. You can see, I'd say the players are very confused as they don't know who they're playing with in, week out. There doesn't seem to be a system. There was talk last week that Ryan O'Kane started taking the free kicks and corners because nobody else was really putting himself forward for it. You know, it seems like they weren't practicing. You see, even Ryan O'Kane, he was taken on. He played against Bohs, or did he come? He came on whatever game he played. The left side of the wing, like Duffy plays there. He's the best left-sided player in the league, but yet they threw him on the right. it's just silly little things. It was the same with Jarkovskis and Dummigan last week. Jarkovskis was taken in, played right back for the first 2 games, and because he played left back for his country, he was thrown in there last week. It just makes no sense to me.
Paddy, have you ever been within a dressing room where a lot of key players left all at once? I mean, I'm talking about here at Dundalk. They've lost Sean Gannon, they've lost Dane Massey. There's other players that Sean Hoare has left in the offseason. Gary Rogers, a huge amount of experience, huge amount of silverware gone out the door all at once. And they've brought in a lot of players that are unproven at this league. Some of them are international players, so they're clearly of a high quality. But have you ever been in that situation where a lot of experience overnight has just drifted out of a dressing room?
Not to that extent, and obviously the loss of that amount of bodies is definitely going to have an effect on the lads that are left there. Like they're trying to gel a whole host of new bodies, similar to what Keith and Trevor are probably doing. But the fact that it's Dundalk and they've been the leading light for the last few years, that it's a hell of a lot, I suppose, more exposed, and it looks from the outside, it looks shambolic, like, mismanagement of the players, letting transfer policy, everything just looks chaotic.
Yeah, because even I mentioned it this week. There's reports now, Alan. I'm sure you're living locally. You've probably heard these as well. That and James, I think, wrote about it in the Argos, that there could be up to 5 or 6 players coming in on trial over the next while at Dundalk. There's no third choice goalkeeper at the moment, which I find astonishing for a club of that size. I mean, Longford Town before the season started went out and got themselves a third choice goalkeeper, because at Premier Division level that's very important. So for a club like Dundalk not to have a third choice goalkeeper, I find that absolutely incredible. I mean, Dundalk are still. And there's obviously talks Zahibo isn't far away from signing as well. They're still putting a squad together, whereas every other team, Paddy, has done their business. And okay, some teams are happier than others, but even the teams that might have felt we could have done better in the transfer market, they've said, this is what we've got to work with until the summer. Let's make the best of it. Whereas Dundalk are still trying to bring pieces into a puzzle that is totally, it's just totally fragmented at the moment.
But that's you're trying to take players in to a league that they haven't played in before as well, and like the League of Ireland is helter-skelter at times, and it's hectic. And fellas are coming in, they're playing in a league that they're not used to been playing in, and it could take them half a season to bed in. But sure, the league goes so quick, it's gone. So they'd need to really consider possibly getting players around the league and going again. But hard to see it happening at the moment with the way things are.
Again, Alan, though, it goes back to who is making the transfer decisions at Dundalk. They don't scream to me to be the type of players that Shane Keegan will be targeting. I was just I'm not sure of Jim Magilton's role. He's not that long in at the club. It's just really confusing what's going on at Dundalk at the moment.
Massively, like you say, if it's somebody from within the League of Ireland that has managed 2 clubs already in the League of Ireland, if he was truly the manager, do you not think he'd be going out signing League of Ireland players? We can offer possibly better wages than anybody else, possibly 52-week wages. We have a great training facilities. We have the best setup between pre-match food. It's all that kind of stuff. It just adds up, and Dundalk, we've been so successful. It's an attractive proposition for any player, I would presume. Shambles with the contracts, the talk of 6 months and then 1-year contracts. Why would you, if you're an international player and we've 2 of them, come here for 1 year? It puts us in such a terrible bargaining position come the end of next year when we've only Andy Boyle and Ryan O'Kane signed up for next season. It's if we think we're bad now, next year is going to be a shambles. We're going to have to try and re-sign, and they can just say, well, we're leaving unless we get an X amount of money again. It's just a joke.
And as you said, during the Stephen Kenny era at the club, it was clear that Kenny managed more than just the team. He basically managed that club, every aspect of it. He was very good at forming a real bond between the club and the supporters. And I think it's been discussed on many Dundalk podcasts and even our own that kind of bond between the club and the supporters, it seems to be just a little bit fragmented at the moment. But you summed it up earlier where Kenny, he cherry-picked 1 or 2 players every year that he felt would fit that system at Dundalk, and he was very much buying players to fit into a system. Whereas at the moment, it looks a little bit like a lucky dip, signing these international names. No idea where we're going to play these players, no idea if they're going to fit the system or not. But we'll sign enough players, and that should be fine. We should win games. And there's been a lot of talk of kind of building a team almost off spreadsheet statistics as opposed to the reality of trying to bed players into a system.
Yeah, and I know Mike Tracy at the time would be a real stats man and is always looking at, projected goals, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, we could sit here now and look at the top 4 or 5 teams in the league and know who are the better players and go, Jesus, they would get into our team. It used to be a case that we could play Bohs and lose to Bohs and go, I still wouldn't start any of the other players in our team. But at the moment, you'd take them all.
Hope you weren't Bohs.
Well, we definitely wouldn't have taken you. But like that, we've lost, as you said earlier on, some great players. Gannon, Massey, Hoare. Like Rodgers, he was 39, 40. It didn't take clairvoyant to see that he was going to leave sooner rather than later. I'm sure Shamrock Rovers know Manus is going to leave in the next year or two, and they're thinking about somebody. So for us to, take someone like Gary Rodgers, let him leave, fair enough. But then taking somebody that hasn't played much games, that nobody knows, doesn't know the league, untested, and then as a backup get somebody who was released by a team that finished disappointed last year, Peter Cherry, who I have to say looked more steady tonight for us. Definitely,
he was almost caught. He almost did. He almost got caught with the ball at his feet in the first half, didn't he?
He did. But come here, Gary Rodgers used to do that fairly often as well. He was every keeper kind of leaves you with your heart in your mouth at some stages. But I'm happy to see Peter Cherry back. But
is he the long-term answer though? Is he the long-term answer for the rest of the season?
I don't know. They chopped and changed so many times last year when they came in, Filippo. Like Gary Rodgers would drop for European matches when we would have won those European matches. Aaron McCarry,
the game in Vienna,
nightmare. Yeah, and that's nothing against Aaron McCarry. Like he was touted to be the replacement. I remember.
Well, he's earned the Player of the Month award at Cliftonville. Now, look, I had my say on Aaron McCarry last year on the podcast. I don't think he was good enough for Dundalk. He's gone to Cliftonville and he's proven himself to be a good goalkeeper. We knew he was a good goalkeeper, but for whatever reason, it just didn't seem like it was going to work out with Dundalk. And you often see that a player goes somewhere else and they just catch fire. But you've summed it up perfectly. Rodgers was coming towards the end of his career for the last number of years, and it's very frustrating then from a Dundalk point of view when you see someone like Odamuso. He was there on the books at Dundalk. He was let go to Drogheda, and he is now an established Premier Division goalkeeper. Jimmy Corcoran this year was a third choice goalie last year. He's now gone down to Wexford on loan. Again, whether or not he's good enough, we don't know. But surely you keep some young goalkeepers around the club, or you try and have some sort of plan. As you said, Rodgers goes, McCarry goes, and then it looks like a bit of a panic buy.
But like what's going to happen now, like you got to presume a keeper at some stage during the season is going to get injured. We'll have no keeper on the bench next week if Cherry pulls his hamstring, during training this week.
Yeah.
Realistically, it's. But same with defence. We've seen Garton got injured, Sonny's in quarantine, and then we've no real backup. We can't play the system that they've wanted to play, which is 5 at the back, which is terrible. But we can't play that the last 2 weeks. Because we don't have cover.
Even the thing with Sonny is a strange one, and Yarkovskis as well. They were signed, and look, I know it's a very, very strange rule, and I didn't know this rule personally, but surely somebody within the club in the admin side of things should have known that these players cannot get a game postponed in the league, because the rule is at the moment that you can only get a game postponed if it's a call up to the Irish or the Northern Irish setup. Surely someone in the admin side of things should have seen that coming. And if you go back a couple of seasons as well, you had the whole thing with the Chris Shields in the cup final. That's twice now they've dropped the ball on the admin side of things. That's not Shane Keegan's fault or Filippo's fault, whoever's signing these players. There's somebody there that should be looking after the paperwork and should know the rule book inside out.
At the same time, we have a squad of 28 players. We shouldn't be looking to have matches postponed. It'd be embarrassing. You saw what happened. Derry, they had one player. Okay, a keeper is a different rule. And then he didn't end up getting to play. It's especially the second game of the season looking for it postponed is just ridiculous. We have enough other players there that we should have a squad capable of playing -2 players.
And look, it doesn't get any easier for Dundalk. They take on the league leader St. Pat's next. I mean, if they don't pick up a result there, Dundalk, I mean, this noise is really going to be amplified over the next week.
Yeah, and it's going to be hard to see us pick up a point. Derry were, put to the sword tonight. the Pats did really well. Benson, of course, scored, a player that I possibly would have gone out about a lot of the time. He would have gone missing, but he's been pretty good for them this season. Mountney, he's gone. Who else? There's a couple of gone to Pats. You know, it's
really well drilled out.
It's really well drilled now, yeah. They had a bad season last season for what I thought they would. I know that they're still probably, what's it, 5th maybe, but with the squad that they'd assembled last year, maybe they're building on it this season, and they look the real deal.
This with a couple of long knees in that last year, whereas this year they seem to have they're a bit more of a settled spine throughout the team, and then obviously your experienced boys with Mountney, Benson, Forrester's in there now as well. He seems to find a bit of form too.
Yeah.
So Ronan Coughlin, I think, is a great sign up top. And then
the keeper seems decent.
Again, the real opposite of Dundalk. They've gone out and signed established players within the league, and Dundalk have gone out and, as I said, signed players that are totally improving, Alan.
Same what Bohs have done as well. Like Bohs picked up Ali Coote out of Waterford, picked up Georgie Kelly, centre forward in the league, and once again, like, I think Bohs, their recruitment the whole time is Keith Long has his finger on the pulse with these things. 1 or 2 boys come in from abroad, but the crux of the squad will always be a League of Ireland base there, and it's easier to add in a couple of lads from abroad to buy into your squad as opposed to 6 or 7 off a spreadsheet.
There's a reason why he got a 4-year deal, you know.
That's
like we would have most of the Dundalk fans would have loved Keith Long here.
With that, Alan, look, I'm going to let you go in the next couple of moments because we're going to hear from our guests in regards to the St. Pat's Derry game earlier. But where do you stand on the management situation at the moment at Dundalk? Would you like to see a change? And even if there is a change, with the way the club has been run at the moment, some of the decisions that have been made, and I assume these decisions have been made stateside, does a change in manager, is it going to change the situation at the club?
We can't do much worse with a change of manager. Put it like that. You know,
are the problems at the
what are they showing?
Do they run deeper than the dugout?
Possibly, but we still, like, as much as people give out about Peak 6, they have still given the support to the manager, whoever the hell the manager is, by giving them a massive squad, and still, like you say, taking people in trial and Sahibo and whoever else. The money's been there, they've backed them.
Did the management team want these players? That's the question.
Look, who knows? That's just that's just us guessing. But I still think we have a good squad. It's just they don't have them playing well. You know, I think somebody else would have a probably structure that would suit the players. It seems like we're trying to put structure in and getting players that don't suit that structure to play in roles that they're not used to, and they're being shown up. Like we talked about Christians earlier on. For 4 or 5 years, he's been the best player in his position, and even with that, we knew we needed support for him. But he's been asked to run everywhere, and he's dragging him out of his positions. And he used to be so settled in front, just shield the back four, and that would get the balls, pass to somebody else that can do the better job of making play passes than him. But he's just been dragged everywhere and pulled out of position. It's a shambles. It's the system's a shambles, and that's down to the manager. If I had my way, I wouldn't have had them there to begin with. I know the Cup win and the President's Cup win, and I suppose the Europa League run maybe bought them time, but no. As much as I think they're probably nice men, it's football is a vicious business, and I'd have them gone if it was me.
Yeah, just before we let you go, Bernard Duff has made a comment. It's actually something that's passed through my mind, I have to say, in the last while. Overseas players will give Dundalk an advantage in Europe. It's a long game they're playing. The other League of Ireland clubs who qualified for Europe did not recruit from Europe, and for me, that would be to their detriment. So, look, it's often been mentioned, hasn't it, Alan, that Europe is the ultimate goal for Peak 6. At the end of the day, the prize money for winning the League of Ireland isn't really anything to write home about. If they can qualify for a group stage in Europe again, then they'll be more than happy with that, I'd imagine.
I saw something the other day that Jerry Malone put up that our weekly, I suppose, the costs to run the club is between 80 and 90,000 euro. Now that's 4.4 million a year. Europe, unless you qualify for group stages of a decent competition, not this. What's the new league we're in?
Conference.
It's not the Europa League, the conference.
Europa Conference, yeah.
it's going to be no good. The money, unless we win it, we're not going to cover our costs. So I don't know. I presume those figures are a bit just messed up.
You wanted to get in there, Paddy?
I don't know.
I said that Dundalk aren't getting near or next to the run that they got in it last year against teams and
we got great draws last year. Great,
unbelievable draws, and that covered over cracks as well, I suppose. And the fact of Dundalk playing the long game by saying that they're signing players for Europe and that, but sure, regardless of the signings, you have to have some kind of a system that you're going to play. Like, you have to be able to put it into play on a Friday night, regardless of who you're playing. So
yeah, and look, at the end of the day, since the new management team came in, they've only won 3 games in the league, and that was against 3 really poor sides: Shells, Cork, and Derry. So it's not looking good at the moment, Alan.
No, it's terrible. I was going to refer to those points. I think we drew 4 and lost 6 as well. So it's not like we're picking up many points at all. And they changed the team so often last year and continue to change it. We had the team that it used to be a stage where you could pick the Dundalk 11. You might have one change because McElhenney was usually injured or somebody else took a knock, but you generally knew 9 or 10 of your starting 11 week to week, and that's what other teams are doing. Like I know the Rovers team that'll start tomorrow, and that's what their success is based on, and they're just doing what Stephen Kenny had done for years, and it's working.
Yeah, very concerning times indeed. And I'm sure it's Dundalk will be a big talking point again on our podcast next week and across Irish football. But look, Alan, I'm sure this is the last thing you wanted to do this evening after that performance. So thanks very much for coming on and joining us.
No problem. Appreciate it, Kieran.
Yeah, so that was Dundalk fan Alan Matthews. Paddy Kavanagh is going to stick around, and we're going to be joined in the next couple of moments by Craig Walsh, former League of Ireland player who's a St. Pat's fan, and JP Fahy, a Derry City fan, to talk about the earlier game. But before that, we're going to just take a quick break, and we're going to bring you a very important message from Head in the Game.
The new season back will soon fade to black if the floodlights turn off.
There will be no away dates with all of your mates if the floodlights turn off.
There'll be no bag of cans on a bus full of fans if the floodlights turn off.
There'll be no Friday night lights or last minute delights if the floodlights turn off.
There will be no singing from the stands with the rest of the fans if the floodlights turn off.
There will be no cup final days when your favourite team plays if the floodlights turn off.
There will be no post-match discussions about last-ditch tackle repercussions if the floodlights turn off.
There will be no more over there, what's the score or singing anymore if you turn your floodlights off.
We've seen some scores and nail misses. Celebrate it with hugs and kisses. Don't turn your floodlights off.
We're in this together and we'll help you get better. Don't turn your floodlights off.
We are a family of supporters, our clubs, sons and daughters. Don't turn your floodlights off.
In the dark of night, we can be your light. Don't turn the floodlights off.
You've been with us around the bend. We're with you as a comrade and friend. Don't turn your floodlights off.
For all the heaviness you hide, we're here by your side. Don't turn your floodlights off.
Please don't cross the line. We still have extra time. Don't turn your floodlights off.
This is not your final whistle. This is not your final whistle.
This is not your final whistle.
This is not your final whistle. Please don't turn your floodlights off.
Yeah, hugely important message there from the folks at Head in the Game. You can give them a follow on all forms of social media. But we're moving on to the second part of the show now. I'm delighted to be joined by former League of Ireland player, I should say, and current St. Pat's fan, Craig Walsh. And JP Fahy joins me as well, Derry City fan. And once again, Paddy Kavanagh is back as well. And Paddy and Craig will be taking your questions for the remainder of the show this evening. JP, we've been talking about one management team under pressure at Dundalk. Declan Devine, I mean, there's a whole heap of pressure on him now after this result tonight.
When I was watching that backstage, I thought I was listening. If I didn't mention Dundalk, but I thought you were chatting about Derry, because it just seems to be the same. Like I think against Longford, the performance from start to finish wasn't good. Against Waterford, we could have come away with a draw at least. But tonight, once we went down to 10 men, there was absolutely no way we were getting anything out of that game. A very good St. Pat's team. They're well drilled. Stephen O'Donnell has them going good guns, and the best we could possibly have hoped with 11 men was a draw. So Divine's under massive pressure. If it wasn't before now, with Shamrock Rovers now on Tuesday night, which is our game in hand. Me personally, I've written that game off, but hopefully I'm wrong. But look, we've got Drogheda at this time next week as well, I think, and pressure's going to be on. Well, our Divine's in charge. Who knows?
And Paddy, it was such a silly sending off for Lepanu to pick up 2 yellow cards so early in the game, and they were really cheap ones he picked up as well.
Yeah, they were sloppy and no need for it. A bit of nous, get yourself back in. The second one especially was just going players out wide. It's just brain dead decision. So I don't know, JP, a bit early to call for Decky's head. He's trying to work with a now depleted squad, I think, at the moment. He's trying to bring fellas through. So
no, I'm personally behind him, like, but there's a lot. I think I'm in a minority. I'm in a minority if you only have to look at the chat forum and the Facebook pages and all that there. A lot of players are looking for, a lot of fans are looking from gone, but me personally, I'm fully behind him, just like the way I be with any manager. I'd be fully behind them until they're not the manager, and then I get behind whoever replaces. So look, for me, I'm not calling for Decky's head, but unfortunately, I just think the majority may just outvote us in the end.
And there's a comment in there from Longford Town Fan TV saying, I think all the big clubs are struggling apart from Rovers. And, you know, we've just been speaking about Dundalk for the last half an hour. Before tonight, Bohs have had a slow start. Derry have had a slow start as well, obviously. So it should be remembered it is a marathon this season. It's not the type of sprint that we had last year. But just before we bring Craig in, Paddy, I know you've mentioned the fact that maybe he's working with a lesser squad than previous years. But JP, is that going to wash, really? I mean, surely there's still enough there for Derry to be performing a lot better than they are.
I don't think it is. It's not washing with, as I say, it's not washing with the majority of fan base, because last year was the biggest budget, I think, in the club's history. I think it was increased on 20% from the previous year, and we didn't make the most of it, and that's a problem. Over the last, like, Stephen Kenny left in 2011, I think, and Decky came in, replaced him, and got a really good squad going. And Paddy was involved in one of them squads. And when Decky was sacked the last time, I thought it was unfair that he was sacked, because he got his Europe again. And then from the appointment of Roddy Collins, it's just spiraled down. It's just spiraled downwards. Yes, we've had in between, we've had the likes of Kenny Shields coming in and Decky coming in, and both managers sort of turned the tide a wee bit, but it wasn't sustained. And I think that's the net. Look, I hope Decky turns it round, because I hope he is a manager for the rest of the season, because if he is, it means he's turned it round. But unfortunately, I don't think many people are buying into the budget cut, the squad cut, the young squad. A lot of people aren't seeing that. And I look, none of us know what the board are thinking, and maybe they've said to them, look, this is a free hit this season. But I know that Philip won't be going into a season looking for relegation. So how long do we get? How long does the club get to turn it round? That's $1 million question.
That a friend of yours there, Paddy, on screen it is?
El Laser Fitz, ledge of a ball boy down at Bohs.
Brilliant stuff. Look, we've had a lot of negativity tonight, so let's bring in some positivity. Craig Walsh. Craig, how's things?
All good, yeah, Kieran. All well.
So why wouldn't it be good? You're top of the league tonight.
Yeah, it's great. There's a good buzz around Inty Court as well at the minute, especially with Pat's doing so well. Like, if you're walking to the shops to get a coffee or grab a newspaper, you might meet someone on the side of the street, like one of the old people from the area, and they say, oh, Jesus, Pats are doing great. It's brilliant. Yeah, so it's good. Long may it last, you know.
Look, we're talking about managers here that are under pressure at the moment. There was a lot of talk before a ball was kicked this year that if Pats didn't get off to a good start, given the investment and some of the players they brought in, the Stephen O'Donnell will be a man under pressure. So that's a great monkey off his back that he's had a good start, and he's already kind of he's stamped a bit of a style on this Pats team. That they're playing some nice football as well, which is something you'd always associate with St. Pat's down the years, particularly their league winning teams.
Yeah, of course. But one thing that struck me is how physical they are and their conditioning. It's probably the best I've seen, like the likes of Chris Forrester and that. They're getting around the pitch, and they look good, you know, like out of possession. I watched them against Rovers, and they were brilliant. They were, especially when they hadn't got the ball, and then they looked a bit of a threat as well going forward. But they've seemed to build on that performance, obviously over the last 2-3 games. But it's exciting, you know, it's exciting times for Pat as well.
And always a massive bonus when you get a new striker in and comes with a bit of a reputation like Coughlin, and he's got off the board early as well.
Yeah, I played with him at Bray, a couple of games with him at Bray, and the one thing that I noticed about him then was his willingness to work hard, and his willingness to get into the box. And if you look at last week against Drogheda, he got in there, or the week before that, and then last week getting the header. And then obviously for the press for Paddy setting there. He's the one setting it off for them. So, no, he's done well. He started well, and glad to see, because he's a nice fella as well.
How far can they go this season, Craig?
I said top 5 at the start of the season they'd be good, but if they don't after the start they've had, if they don't say third, top 3, third, I'd say it'd be a good season, and then he'd be obviously looking for a run in the FAI Cup as well. But I'd say Europe has to be the aim for Pat anyway, especially with the players that's there and some of the calibre of the players that's there. Like some of them have been played in Europe over the last couple of years. You look at Mountney, Benson, and then previous seasons you have Forrester there as well, who would have played, and then Ian Birmingham, who was excellent tonight. So they have a good mixture there as well. So look, I think champions is a bit too far, but I think they'll be up there in the European places anyway.
Paddy, is there anyone in that Pats team that's really caught your eye at the start of this season?
Real doggedness about them this year, and I think Lee Desmond is driving from centre back, and Bermo sitting in at left full obviously is stalwart at this stage. But I like the combination of Benson and Forster in the middle. I think they play good football, and they're working well off each other at the moment. So impressive.
And JP, just going back to Derry for a minute, as you said, Shamrock Rovers up next. You're writing that one off a little bit, but again, just like the Dundalk situation, there's going to be a lot of noise, and that's probably not going to help. The quicker Derry can get some points on the board, the better.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I say, I've written it off, but I hope I'm wrong. I really do hope I'm wrong, but unfortunately, I can't see, based on the last. Even if we had won tonight, I probably would have written it off as well. But Drogheda at home next Friday night is a big one. Whether we win against Rovers or not, Drogheda is a big one. We need to be winning that to take the pressure off, not just the manager, but off the players as well, because there must be an awful lot of pressure on their shoulders going out on the pitch whenever they play. And then I know Dundalk have some Pats next week, and if Derry don't win any of their next 2 games, you've got the old adage that you could be coming up against Dundalk, a bottom of the table clash, and it would really, really be a must win then. But look, I'm fully behind the management team, but I fear I'm in a minority, and I don't know. There's just no service for Parkhouse at the minute. I think a ball goes into midfield, and I like how they try to get it forward, but I just think it's tonight, especially before we went down to 10 men, they were trying to get it forward early, but it just seemed to be aimless. It wasn't. It was just knock it in the channel and hope for the best. But
yeah, that's the impression I got against Longford as well in the opening game. I thought there was a lot of hoofball up to Parkhouse, and look, I don't mind seeing that if it's direct and there's a purpose. But there was a lot of really aimless stuff just into the corners and asking a man to chase it down, and he's never going to get there.
He done it very effectively 2 years ago when he was here, but 2 years ago he had Jamie McDonough one side and Junior the other. Now he's practically up there on his own, and he's been expected to try and chase a ball in the corner and hope for somebody else to get in the box, but that's not what we want. We want somebody else chasing it in the corner and Parkhouse getting in the box, because that's why he was signed for. He was signed to score goals. We know he can do it. He scored 19 goals 2 years ago, but at the end of the day, it's like any other striker. They can be the best in the world, but unless they get the service from the midfield or the wings, they're not going to score you goals. And
of course, he's lost the service of Junior, and you would have had another winger that provided a lot of goals. Yeah, so they've both left, and look, I know we've been saying it probably shouldn't wash the talk of a depleted squad, that there's a good enough squad there to get better results, but maybe there is something to it in certain areas of the pitch, because definitely Parkhouse isn't getting the service he got in 2019.
The first 11, it should be good enough. They be, say, around 5th, 6th, 7th, around that area. It's when you look at the bench, especially against Waterford last week, there was one senior player, I think, on it, and it was James Akintunde. And then tonight, we had Fitzgerald and Kieran Cole. There was nothing really on the bench. I think the sub tonight was Brendan Barr, who's just come up from the under-19. Brought him on after going 1-0 down. Yes, it is a depleted squad, but as I say, the first 11, 12 should be good enough. They get results, especially against the likes. No disrespect to these two teams, Longford and Waterford, but them's two games that you would have looked at and you'd have been expecting to win both of those games, and maybe take a draw against Pats and against Rovers. But unfortunately, we didn't get anything from those two games, which heaped massive pressure onto the game tonight. And then when when you're under pressure, you need players to dig in. And unfortunately, I just think Danny Lopano was just lazy tonight, and he gave the referee no option really, and it was just stupid. And unfortunately, I feel that individual errors is costing us at the minute, and it's letting the manager down.
Craig, some nice comments coming in about Pats here. Bernard Duff again says, twice Pats went to Tala last season and were as good as Rovers. No surprise O'Donnell has turned it around there. And Mark Gilchrist says, Pats seem to finally be playing to their strengths this season. Derry seem to be in trouble, JP. I kind of got that sense watching the game today, Craig, that Pats, although they are playing nice football, they're a little bit more streetwise than they were last year. I mean, I got the feeling that was the sort of game last year where if they had picked up the extra man early on, they maybe would have missed some chances, made some mistakes at the back, or even gone and got a man sent off themselves. I thought they were really professional tonight about their job.
Yeah, they were excellent. Yeah, obviously I haven't seen any Birmingham that far forward probably in a long time, and he was constantly up getting balls into the box, and they were dominating the midfield. Jamie Lennon I thought was excellent. There was nice combinations of play, and also John Mountney getting down the right. He was excellent as well. But they seem to have a lot more of a structure to their play, and a lot more about them this season. And there's a couple of them was posted there with a point to prove. You know, I think Forrester wasn't great the last 2 seasons since he's come back from the UK. This season he's been excellent. And then there's other players there as well. Lee Desmond's been unbelievable this season so far. But yeah, they look a lot more solid. And as I said, I just hope they stay up there and keep challenging for Europe.
I think Jamie Lennon's after stepping up another level as well. Seems to be in the right place a lot of the time, and his passing of the ball is quite passed with a purpose. He has that directness about him that seems to have taken him on another level and taken the Pats midfield on another level. So
yeah, well, the three of them in there, Benson, Forrester, and Lennon, they've been excellent. But obviously we're having them 2 lads in there with them as well, 2 of them experienced lads. That'll bring them on a lot as well. You know, both of them are league winners and cup winners, and they've been about the league, and that'll do them no harm either.
You enjoyed that comment there, JP?
It's not far wrong, let me tell you. But I think that's being unfair to the under-19s, because they've literally just come. The under-19s didn't finish their season last year, and now they're being expected.
There's actually a question in here about academy players, so you might be best placed to answer that one for us.
Probably young Keelan McLaughlin, who's made a sub appearance in the first two games. I hear a lot of good reports from him, from his youth coaches and stuff. And then Brendan Barr came on tonight, so maybe they're the two that maybe Decky's looking at it. Maybe could be possible squad players. I know 2 years ago with young Jack Malone, who's now a part of, he done his learning in a team that was winning, and it's easier to do that. So I feel for these young kids, because it's not going to be easy for them. But if they can come through this and get themselves into the first team for maybe next year or whatever, they'll be all the better for it. But unfortunately, since we got John Quigg and Eddie Sadak left the academy, we used to have a conveyor belt of talent coming through. But unfortunately, since them two have left, just seems not to be quite as many or anybody coming through from the academy. At one point, I think under Kenny Shields, we had quite a few players come through from the under-19s that played in the first team, and they're very effective. But unfortunately, we couldn't hold on to them, and just that's the reality of a Derry player. But to answer the question, I'm not 100% sure, but them's the two names that stick out right now.
Very good. Look, Paddy, now the Bohs are up in Motorum for this season, who's going to finish higher since we've Craig on with us as well? Bohs or Pats? Who'll finish with the supremacy there?
I think Pats have had a doggedness about them, but I think Bohs will come good and put it up to Rovers.
Craig, would you agree?
Obviously not, but you look at Bohs last season, like I think they might have started a bit slow, I think, last season, and then as the season went on, they finally found their feet. Look, it'd be interesting. You know, it's good to actually have two or three Dublin clubs over the last couple of years. It's been the Cork, the Dundalk. So I think it's time to give some of the Dublin clubs a chance. Look, it'd be interesting to see. Obviously, you got to remember the Pats goalkeeper situation. Your man's been brilliant. Jaros, he's been excellent so far, but I'm sure Liverpool are going to take him back in July. Where's that going to leave Pats? Is Barry Murphy going to be ready to step in? Or I know this the other young lad, I think it's Keeley. So you have all these, you can think of all these different situations. But no, look, it'd be interesting. Obviously, I'd like to see Pats, but we'll wait and see.
That is the problem with these loan signings from the UK, isn't it? That they're always available to be taken back if they're doing well or if there's injuries at their parent club. And JP, I know Derry might run into that situation. Joe Hodge hasn't kicked the ball and may not kick a ball for Derry because he's gone back to Manchester City with a back injury. But they've also got the young lad on loan from Swansea as well, and there's a couple of other loan signings there. So we could be looking at a very different Derry team come the summer.
Well, there's only two, is Joe Hodge and Danny Lopano. Lopano's in from Hull. Mark Walsh came from Swansea on a permanent deal. Look, Joe Hodge is out. He came with a back injury. I think it was a fracture in the lower back, but apparently he's over at Man City now, getting the best treatment possible. And as far as I know, the club are hoping they have him back in the next few weeks. But I'm pretty sure it'll take another few weeks on top of that to get up to match fitness. But I think the club are confident that they could maybe extend that come July because of the lack of the amount of time that he's been out injured. Danny Lopano, he's out of contract actually at Hull in June, so he didn't do himself much favours of maybe getting that extended tonight. But look, it's one game. It's a mistake. He'll learn from it. He's a young boy. And I know last year, the second part of the season, Derry was a completely different team personnel-wise than they were because we'd lost the likes of Adam Little, who was in from Reading. Lopano was in from Hull. Nielsen went back to Norway or Denmark or something like that. And we'd lost quite a few of our own players to the Irish League as well. So I think most of the squad that we have there now are ours for the rest of the season, or if we want them. So I just think we maybe might need to just keep persisting with the same lineup just to try and get a bit of continuity going, a bit of a gelling between them to see if it can generate a bit of impetus in the team. I think the worst thing that we could do is chop and change every week because I think that would defeat the purpose. I think.
Need to get young Harkin further up the pitch, I feel, for Derry. I think he's...
Yeah, I agree.
There's no point in him sitting in front of the back four. He's not going to play the quarterback role. He's more effective when he's playing up against the opposition's back four, and he can get down the sides of defenders and that. And he make a difference with Parkhouse being the focal point and have Harkin in there to run past him.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think I think we made a huge mistake in letting Conor McCormick go. I know it went for he went for personal reasons with his family and stuff. He wanted to be closer to his family, but at the end of the day, he was our player. We should have insisted that he stayed until we found a proper replacement, somebody that could sit in front of the back four and sweep up a play. We didn't get in the first 20-25 minutes today. There was a couple of times where we got on the ball midfield and it was just lumped forward. Sometimes you just need somebody to get their foot on the ball and take a sting out of the game and build the play up. And I totally agree with your sentiments on wee Jackie. He has to be further forward. We've seen 2019, him and Greg Sloggett and Barry McNamee were the midfield three, and the three of them complemented one another absolutely superbly because Barry was the link man between the midfield and attack. But if Jackie went forward, Sloggett stayed back, and vice versa. And last season, Jackie only started 9 games out of 21. He started the first 3 games this year, and I totally agree. We need to get him further forward because he's more effective. He could be actually used someday. Link up with Parkhouse and get him behind rather than, as you say, sitting trying to mop up because he's not. I don't think he's that type of player, to be honest.
Look, JP, in one word before I let you go, because we're coming towards the end of the show. Declan Devine, will he turn it around this season?
I don't know, Kieran. I honestly don't know. I hope he does. But it's not looking good at the minute. I think he might just need one win to kickstart it, and who knows, it might be Shamrock Rovers on Tuesday night.
Yeah, well, look, I have to echo those sentiments. I really hope he does turn it around. He's one of the good guys in Irish football. He's a good fan of, good friend of Between the Stripes as well. Always very good with his time. So I really hope he does turn it around. But that's where we'll leave the chat on Derry City tonight. JP, you've been excellent. Thanks for speaking with us.
Thank you, lads. Good luck.
Good luck, JP.
Craig, before I let you go, obviously, since you've kind of stepped away from the League of Ireland, you've had a very, very good time playing in the Leinster Senior League. And as we know, that's a league that's been greatly affected by the COVID-19 restrictions at the moment. I'd imagine it's very frustrating not being able to get out and watch games at the moment.
Yeah, it's difficult. Also, do a bit of coaching with the little maestros. Adam Mitchell, friend of mine, we have it now going 3 years. That stopped as well, so that's been tough. But not being able to play as well has been tough. And then not knowing when you're going to play again.
That's the worst part, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. You're setting yourself a date to 4 months, 3-4 months down the line, and that comes and there's nothing again. So yeah, it's been difficult. I also think the League of Ireland needs the Leinster Senior League. You look at the players that have come through, like Danny Grant. He came from Bangor to Bohs, and now he's gone to the UK. Obviously, Paddy, you played with Wayside.
Product of Leinster Senior League as well, yeah.
Yeah. But there's good young players in it that could make the breakthrough, and that's
would we see more fruits? Would we see more fruits of the Leinster Senior League if it ran calendar-wise alongside the League of Ireland? Is that the biggest issue with it?
I think so. I think that should be, and I think that some players should be allowed to be loaned out to a Leinster Senior League team. Like the amount of lads that have drifted away from football and not even gone into Leinster Senior League because they've had bad experiences playing the League of Ireland. Some smashing footballers. I'd like to see a link with the Munster Senior League, the Leinster Senior League, and also I think there's no Senior League in Connacht, but Ulster, I think they have a link with Finn Harps reserves and the Derry reserves. But I think that it's kind of a production line, isn't it? I think that's going to suffer through the COVID with the Leinster Senior League not being on. I know some clubs have took advantage of it, the likes of Cabinteely, and I know Longford have took 1 or 2 on. Aaron Robinson, who's a handy enough player. And then obviously Darren Craven, who's a smashing player. He's at Bray and he started every game. So that's the type of talent that's in the Leinster Senior League. And then there's other younger players as well that you'd like to see the breakthrough, but obviously they're not playing with that club at the minute to be noticed by the League of Ireland team.
As you said, it could help bridge that gap between 19s football and senior football as well.
Yeah, definitely. I remember I was at Rovers at Paddy. I think I was with you at Rovers at the time, and I was only a young lad, 17, 18. Obviously didn't get on, didn't play on the Friday night. There was a night championship game on the Saturday morning, and it kind of gave it a bit of something to look forward to, something to train. You know you have to do a week's training, and you've something to look forward to at the end of the week. If you're not going to get in the first game, right, you have a night championship game to look forward to. But there's nothing there like that. You know, I've seen a lot of clubs have friendlies lined up. I think Finn Harris might have played Sligo the other night. I was saying that. But there's nothing like that. There's no Leinster Senior Cup for young this year. There's no League Cup.
There's the gap after gap. If from 19s to first team football, there's something has to be done about that in between stage. And
it was a huge mistake getting rid of the championship, wasn't it, Craig? It was a good league, and it also gave clubs that weren't in the league a kind of a platform to introduce them to the League of Ireland.
Of course, have a 23s league and allow play 3 overage players in it. There's no harm in that. I know they do it in England, in the UK. You're allowed to play 3 lads over the edge that maybe are coming back from injury or need fitness.
We had it back years. It used to be the under-21s, it was called. And you were allowed to see senior players to play, and it was a gift for obviously the injured players coming back, but it allowed young fellas to come through and play with men at the same time and be in that scenario where you're playing men's football now. You're not just playing schoolboy football, which under 19s, right? You might be 18 years of age, might be classed as an adult, but you're still playing schoolboy football at the end of the day. And the under 21s or under 23s or some kind of a link with Leinster Senior League, I'd say that's a long way. Not even thought of, I'd say. But
look, I suppose it all comes back to finances, doesn't it, at the end of the day?
But this is it, yeah. But why can't they tie in with the Leinster Senior League, the Munster Senior League, even the Connacht Junior League, and obviously that ties in with the Ulster Senior League up there? Why can't they tie in?
Too many stars involved.
Yeah, it's like everything in this country, Paddy. It comes back to politics, I'm afraid.
Yeah. But as we got back to the under 19 thing, I've seen a lot of lads coming out of Rovers 19s, Pats 19s, coming up to Crumlin to train, and they think automatically that, right, I'm at the being playing under 19s like I'm coming up to Crumlin.
Miles off it.
They're miles off it. They're miles away. Like it's still a very high standard, and there's lads that I played with at Crumlin that would have had great careers in the League of Ireland, but they chose not to. But I think something needs to be done in terms of bridging the gap from 19 to first team football and helping young lads as well. Like young lads are just walking away from the game and not even playing again.
Yeah.
Look, Craig, great speaking with you this evening. Good to see you keeping well. I know I'll be catching up with you soon for an interview on the head in the game socials as well. We've seen the little clip we played there as well. So again, our viewers tonight, if you want to give those good folks a follow on social media, very important message they're spreading throughout the league at the moment. But Craig, Pat's flying high. Good to see, and we'll catch up again soon.
Cheers, Kieran. Thanks. See you, Paddy.
Take it easy, Craig.
Paddy, before I let you go, we're just going to run through the First Division results tonight. You might give me a brief opinion on some of these results. Cork City, they have taken a real tumble back down to earth, haven't they? I suppose they had the win in the Cork Derby against Cove. A lot of people were talking about maybe this Cork team can contend for promotion, and then they suffer defeat to Cabinteely and tonight to Athlone Town. I mean, it's some fall from grace for that football club. James Duna with the winning goal as well. I'm not sure if you ever played with James.
Athlone put some squad together, to be fair to them. And but no, look, Turner's Cross, like it needs to be in the Premier Division, you feel, and it's one of the best grounds to go and play in. A rock and Turner's Cross is something else to be playing in front of. But look, if the club isn't run properly and they're in the state they're in, it's nobody else's fault, really, you know.
Athlone, can they contend for promotion this year?
Possibly. Keep players fit, and look, they have a good core of players there with plenty of experience. So I'll be keeping an eye on them this season.
While it's sad to see Cork falling from grace the way they have, it's good to see Athlone on an upward curve, because I mean that club was in an awful situation for a number of years.
I was in a especially with the history that was in Athlone going back way back when, but their little ground there now is well set up, and hopefully they're on an upward curve.
Bernard Duff, El Clasico in the 22 Prem. I hope so, because that means Longford will have stayed up. So I'd be happy with that. I'd give Athlone a promotion pass if it means Town staying up this year. One of your other former clubs, Paddy, Shelbourne, 1-0 winners over Wexford. It was an own goal though on the hour mark that gave Shells the 3 points here. Have you been surprised with the lack of goals they've scored so far, given the attacking players they've brought in? The likes of Yo-Yo Made hasn't really caught fire yet.
No, they haven't. But I feel once they do click, I think they'll one team is going to come up against Shells and they'll click and they'll get an absolute hammering. I feel it's going to be one of them, and it'll set them off on a run. That squad itself is a Premier Division squad, so I think Morrow is assembled a hell of a squad, so it'll be interesting to see how they develop.
Yeah, look, a lot of the two lads on my podcast this week both said they'd click and they'd hand out a hammer in this week, and they thought it'd be this game against Wexford. It wasn't the case, so we'll keep an eye on Shells and see how they get on. There'll be a lot of pressure on them to get straight back up this year. Treaty United 1, Cove 1. Treaty still unbeaten at League of Ireland level. Great to see. And all 3 games they've played, they've had a man sent off as well. Charlie Fleming was sent off tonight on the 33rd minute, but they were already in the lead thanks to a Sean McSweeney goal at that stage. And Darryl Walsh got Cove an equaliser. So Cove had a slow start, but I suppose for them just to get a point on the board after that absolute trouncing they took off UCD was probably important tonight.
Yeah, good for Cole to get something on the board. Treaty collecting red cards for fun. Joel Coltrane down there, he seems to be doing bits and bobs for them that they're seeing to reap the rewards of.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to see him back in the league as well, isn't it? Because he signed for that loan last year, and for whatever reason, he didn't really feature. And look, he's going to get first team minutes down there in Treaty, and I'm sure he'll show what a good player he is. He was only at Shamrock Rovers a couple of years ago.
That's it. I just think I remember I played. He's a talented player. I just felt he needed to be at a club where he was kind of the big fish in that pond where he's going to flourish. So, hopefully he has a good season. I think he's really talented fella.
And the final result to bring you tonight, folks, in the First Division: UCD 0, Bray 0. Is it fair to say that could be two of the title contenders maybe cancelling each other out, or are you disappointed with the start those two teams have made?
Yeah, I thought. I was expecting a bit more from Bray. I think they're good experience that they have in the squad. Obviously, UCD, any season UCD can show up and create. They turn diamonds out, the kind of way, and
they're always there or thereabouts, aren't they?
Always, but they have that conveyor belt of talent that just seems to throw up these players that go on. Obviously, they're like that. They're a selling club, but they're always in the mix, I feel.
And look, before you go, you might give us your thoughts on the 3 games tomorrow. Finn Harps against Waterford. Harps to be eager to get back to the top of the table.
Yeah, well, Ollie and Hegsy show it's some start for them, but Waterford, to be fair, have done all right themselves. So it'll be an interesting, tough game, battle. But I think Harps might get something out of the game.
Harps love the battle, so you probably would. You'd probably lean towards them. Longford Drogheda. If you don't say Longford win, I'm going to kick you off the stream right away.
If you don't say Longford, my pal Lee Stacey be on to me.
Good stuff.
Longford, hell of a start. Drogheda too, but Darragh Doyle has Longford really well drilled, organised. Deans Amber and Aid, they're in the middle. They're battle hardened contenders now. I think Longford might get a result tomorrow.
Yeah, thanks to Press Records for the comment there. I was actually at the Drogs game last week against Harps, and I think Longford and Drogs are probably on a very similar level. But the one thing that might concern me tomorrow is the amount of experience in that Drogheda team. You've got Deegan, Massey, Corcoran as well, who you'll know quite well. So a lot of players that know how to pull results out of a bag there.
Oh, definitely. There's good. Look, Tim's put together a good core there, but I don't know. I like the animal that Longford are this year. I think they have that willingness not to be beaten, and they stay going. Like Bohs, 2-0 down against Bohs and came out all guns blazing type thing. Disciplined performance again. So that's why I feel Longford might do something tomorrow. I'll probably put the crow on them now though.
No, good stuff. I knew I got you on for a reason. That was good. I enjoyed that. And look, probably the game of the weekend is the Battle of the Rovers. Sligo Rovers against Shamrock Rovers. How far do you think this Sligo team can go this year? If they were to win tomorrow, would that be a real stamp of contention for a title, or would they just be happy with a top 4 finish in truth?
I think in truth, they'd be happy with the top 4. But look, if they can get a result against Shamrock Rovers tomorrow, confidence will be gone through the roof. Good, once again, Liam Buckley's put together a good squad, and they're playing with a similarity, I think, to his Pat's winning team. He likes to play that way, where they play free-flowing football and that, and the
There wasn't much sign of it last week against Longford, I have to say.
Gary Buckley was on the score sheet, wasn't he? But
He was.
Football playing centre back, and he's from, I think it was a number 10 at one stage. Now he's playing centre back, so he seems to have fit in well. Greg Bulger, obviously, the big sign, big experience there.
Yeah.
So, no, I think.
Have they got enough to win tomorrow?
Probably not. The Shank Rover squad it's an exceptional array of talent.
Is it their title to lose this year?
I think so. I just the firepower that they have available to them, and they have boys that can fill in and out of the midfield. It's very hard to see. I feel it is theirs to lose.
That's Paddy Kavanagh's thoughts on tomorrow's Premier Division games. They're all live on Watch LOI from 6 o'clock, and as you can see on screen there, for previews and discussion on all of tomorrow's games, you can tune into Between the Stripes LOI podcast right now, available on all podcast providers or via our website betweenthestripes.net. But that's where we're going to leave it tonight. Paddy, thanks a million.
Here on, gentlemen, thanks very much.
Yeah, great to have Paddy Kavanagh on with us this evening. So that is the BTS Boot Room. That was our biggest show of the season so far. We were recapping the 2 games tonight. That was Derry's defeat up in Richmond against St. Pat's, and of course that defeat for Dundalk against Bohemians. So it was Kieran Burke as ever hosting the show tonight. You can follow Between the Stripes on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our website address is betweenthestripes.net for all of our content in one place. But before we go tonight, a reminder of our brand new website and what you can expect on it. But for tonight, it's good night. Say hello to betweenthestripes.net, the new official home of all your favourite BTS content in one place. Are you a regular listener of Between the Stripes LOI podcast? Well, great news. You can now find all of our latest podcasts via our new website, and you can listen to them there as well, while as ever, you can continue to sync up with the likes of Apple, Spotify, Google, and all your favourite podcast providers. Not only can you listen to our weekly podcast, you can find our podcast extras, the likes of our League of Ireland Life Stories series, and you can listen to these directly through betweenthestripes.net. We're delighted to have some huge names on board providing regular columns this season on betweenthestripes.net, including the likes of Stephen Henderson, Conor Hoey and James Rogers. Read their thoughts now on betweenthestripes.net. You can also find all of our latest video content through Between the Stripes TV on betweenthestripes.net right now. As ever, you can link up with our socials, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, and if you'd like to buy us a coffee, you can do that now as well through the desktop version of betweenthestripes.net, the new home of Between the Stripes. On top of all of that, our new website is 100% mobile optimised, meaning you can scroll and read the latest Between the Stripes stories, listen to our latest podcast, look at our latest videos, all on the go 24/7 via betweenthestripes.net. So what are you waiting for? Head over to betweenthestripes.net now and enjoy the very best of League of Ireland coverage.